Crimson Desert is an open-world action RPG from Pearl Abyss, scheduled to launch on March 19, 2026. This project has been teased for years now, but with each new reveal, it becomes increasingly obvious why they've taken their time. Running on Pearl Abyss's proprietary Black Desert engine, the technology powering this game is genuinely impressive. The scale of the world is enormous, and the ocean simulation technology alone is worth mentioning. Water behaves realistically, waves actually crest and break rather than relying on basic animations. Dynamic weather systems roll through and genuinely alter the atmosphere and appearance of locations. The combat has a weightier, more deliberate pace compared to typical fantasy titles, with strikes that have real impact behind them. Character models are incredibly detailed, featuring nuanced facial animations and armor that genuinely looks battle-worn and heavy. Mounted combat plays a significant role as well, and it carries authentic momentum instead of that disconnected, floaty feeling you sometimes get. With PlayStation 5 Pro enhancements adding even more visual fidelity, this is shaping up to be a proper next-generation fantasy experience that prioritizes substance alongside spectacle. We finally have a clear look at what the veterans from CD Projekt Red have been building, and it's called The Blood of Dawnwalker. This is the debut title from Rebel Wolves, a studio founded by key creative leads behind The Witcher 3, and they are aiming for a 2026 release. Instead of high fantasy, they are grounding this in a dark, twisted version of 14th century Europe. Powered by Unreal Engine 5, the world looks incredibly grim. Think plague-ridden streets and thick, gothic atmosphere rather than shiny armor and heroes. The twist here is the protagonist, Cohen. You aren't just a monster hunter, you're a Dawnwalker. Human by day, vampire by night. This duality is central to the gameplay. During the day, you rely on swordplay and social maneuvering, but once the sun sets, you tap into vampiric abilities for traversal and brutal combat. It's being pitched as a narrative sandbox, meaning the story isn't just a straight line you walk down. Your choices genuinely reshape the world and the plot, which makes sense given the pedigree of the writers involved. Visually, it avoids the flashy, oversaturated look of many modern RPGs in favor of something moody and grounded, lit by torches and moonlight. If you've been waiting for an RPG that prioritizes deep storytelling and a mature, handcrafted world over endless fetch quests, this is the one to watch. S-Game is officially locked in a date for Phantom Blade Zero. It's hitting PS5 and PC on September 9th, 2026. When this was first revealed, a lot of people were skeptical that the gameplay could actually match the cinematic trailers, but seeing it in action has put those doubts to rest. The game is calling its style Kung Fu Punk, a mashup of traditional Chinese martial arts and gritty steampunk machinery. The combat is blistering fast. It runs on Unreal Engine 5 and focuses heavily on momentum. You aren't just hacking away at health bars, you're flowing between parries, dodges, and aggressive combos that look like choreographed cinema. You play as Soul, an elite assassin with literally 66 days left to live, which sets a desperate tone for the whole campaign. What's most impressive is the fluidity. The animations don't snap or clip, they transition smoothly from sprinting to striking, giving the action a rhythm that feels distinct from the usual Souls-like formula. The world design is just as sharp, mixing rain-slicked traditional architecture with weird mechanical prosthetics and dark fantasy horror. If you want an action RPG that rewards precision and looks stylish as hell doing it, Phantom Blade Zero needs to be on your radar. Crystal Dynamics is finally turning the page. After wrapping up the Survivor trilogy, they are moving on to the next era of Lara Croft with Tomb Raider Catalyst. We're looking at a 2027 release window, and importantly, this isn't a remaster or a hesitant step. It is a full-blown next-generation leap built entirely on Unreal Engine 5. The shift to UE5 is huge because it frees the team from the aging Foundation engine that held the last few games back. We're trading the gritty survivalism of the island for the vibrant, massive landscapes of northern India. Concept art suggests we are getting a much grander scale. Think towering mountain temples and dense vertical jungles that actually require complex traversal. This setting isn't just for show, it's about giving Laura a playground that demands modern mechanics. We're expecting a return to intricate, movement-based puzzles and a Laura who moves with a fluidity we haven't seen before. The facial capture and animation blending in UE5 should make the storytelling hit harder too. Basically, Catalyst looks like the moment Crystal Dynamics stops compromising and gives us the blockbuster adventure Laura deserves. If you thought the oldest house was trippy before, wait until you see what Remedy does next. Control Resonant is targeting a 2026 launch, and the expectations are incredibly high, especially after the visual benchmark they set with Alan Wake 2. The big talking point here is the tech. The first Control was a masterpiece of art direction, but it was limited by the hardware of its time. Resonant is running on the fully upgraded Northlight engine, the same tech that made Alan Wake 2 look photorealistic. Imagine that level of lighting, shadow fidelity, and particle physics applied to a brutalist skyscraper that constantly shifts and rearranges its own geometry. We're going to see a version of the Federal Bureau of Control that feels heavier and more reactive. When Jesse rips a chunk of concrete out of the wall or launches an enemy, the destruction is going to be visceral. Remedy has a reputation for fully committing to their weird, supernatural concepts, and with this new engine, they have the power to make the paranormal feel genuinely disturbing. If the first game was about discovering the unknown, Resonant looks like it's about mastering the chaos. This is a story-first Marvel game set during World War II, and it's being directed by Amy Hennig. Yeah, that Amy Hennig, the Uncharted writer and director. Jumping into Marvel immediately tells you this isn't some loot-driven superhero game. This is about characters, tension, and big cinematic moments. The game is being built in Unreal Engine 5, and the footage they've shown already looks borderline unreal. You can pause certain shots and genuinely mistake them for a high-budget film still. Skin detail, lighting, facial movement, it's all on a different level. The story follows Captain America and Black Panther teaming up during World War II, which is a time period Marvel hasn't explored much in games, especially at this scale. That setting alone makes it stand out, but the real hook is how focused everything looks. This doesn't seem like a giant map stuffed with icons. It feels intentional, tight pacing, dramatic set pieces, and quieter character moments in between, all moving toward a clear ending. The facial animation tech deserves special mention because characters actually react. You see fear, hesitation, anger, real emotion instead of stiff expressions or dead eyes. That's always been one of Amy Hennig's strengths, making game stories feel human. Giving her modern tech and the Marvel license feels like a perfect match. If you've been waiting for a Marvel game that treats its story seriously instead of turning everything into a checklist, this one feels like it's aiming straight for that lane. Ace Combat 8 is the next mainline entry in Bandai Namco's Jet Combat series, and it's finally being built exclusively for modern hardware. No last-gen compromises this time, and for Ace Combat, that's a huge deal. The aircraft detail is already shaping up to be insane. These jets are modeled closely after real-world planes, with visible panel lines, surface wear, and tiny details that still hold up when you're pulling hard turns at ridiculous speeds. It's the kind of fidelity that actually matters when you're right up in the clouds. The environments are massive. You're flying through narrow canyons, weaving between skyscrapers, diving into storms, and climbing above cloud cover. Weather isn't just visual either. It actively affects visibility in combat, which adds a layer of tension when you're lining up shots or evading missiles. Ace Combat has always nailed that dramatic, almost overwhelming energy. Dogfights get crowded fast. Missiles streak across the sky, warning alarms won't shut up, wingmen are shouting callouts, and everything feels like it's spiraling toward chaos. With current-gen lighting, draw distance, and effects, all of that should feel sharper, cleaner, and more intense than ever before. And then there are the series' signature moments, the over-the-top super weapons and massive-scale battles. Those encounters are expected to feel absolutely huge this time around, especially without hardware limits holding them back. If you want something grounded, skill-based, and intense, no fantasy, no sci-fi powers, Ace Combat 8 is about speed, pressure, and keeping control when everything around you is falling apart. Onimusha Way of the Sword, Capcom is finally revisiting its roots. Onimusha Way of the Sword is bringing the legendary samurai action series back in 2026, and it looks like a massive modernization of what made the original so special. Back in the day, Onimusha was the king of survival action, mixing tank controls with demon slaying, but this new entry is rebuilding that concept from the ground up using the RE engine. The result is arguably the most realistic feudal Japan we've ever seen. The atmosphere is thick. We're talking about mist rolling through dense forests, incredibly detailed armor textures, and lighting that makes the steel of your katana look genuinely dangerous. Combat seems to have shifted away from hack-and-slash speed into something much more deliberate. It's not about mashing buttons, it's about spacing, parries, and making every single cut count. Given what Capcom has achieved recently with Resident Evil and Devil May Cry 5, applying that same level of polish to a grounded, supernatural samurai game is a recipe for success. If they can nail that balance of exploration and intense, heavy swordplay, this revival is going to be huge. Exodus. If you've been waiting for a spiritual successor to the golden age of Mass Effect, Exodus is the game you need to watch. It's a massive sci-fi RPG coming in early 2027 from Archetype Entertainment, a studio stacked with veteran developers who defined the genre at BioWare. Built on Unreal Engine 5, the game looks absolutely stunning, featuring vast alien landscapes and high-fidelity character models. But the real hook here isn't just the visuals, it's the concept of time dilation. The core mechanic revolves around the consequences of space travel. While you're out on a mission, days for you might be decades for the people you leave behind. Your choices don't just change the ending, they ripple through generations. It's a brilliant setup for an RPG because it adds a layer of emotional weight to every decision you make. You can see the DNA of Mass Effect in the cinematic dialogue and the squad dynamics, but Exodus feels like it's pushing those ideas forward with modern tech. For anyone who loves story-driven space operas, this is easily one of the most promising titles on the horizon. Pragmata. The mystery is finally clearing up. After years of silence and delays, Capcom's enigmatic sci-fi project, Pragmata, is locked in for an April 24, 2026 release. What makes this game so intriguing is how little it resembles anything else Capcom makes. It's running on the RE engine, but instead of zombies or demons, it's rendering a haunting, sterile vision of a broken future Earth. You play as an astronaut figure escorting a mysterious young girl, and the relationship between them seems to drive the entire experience. The vibe is distinct. It's lonely, surreal, and incredibly atmospheric. The gameplay shown so far leans heavily into low-gravity traversal and environmental puzzles rather than straight-up combat. There's a strange beauty to the empty cityscapes and the floating, unnatural structures you navigate. In an industry full of sequels and remakes, Pragmata feels like a genuine oddity, and the fact that Capcom has taken this long to get it right suggests they have something really unique on their hands. Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet, Naughty Dog's upcoming title, aiming for a late 2026 or 2027 launch window. This marks the studio's first venture into a completely original universe in quite some time, representing a significant departure from their previous work. The aesthetic here is heavily inspired by retro-futurism. Think bulky machinery, classic sci-fi influences, and carefully crafted space settings that all feel very deliberate. What we saw in the reveal was real-time in-engine footage that makes it tough to distinguish where gameplay ends and cinematics begin. You step into the role of Jordan, a character who gives off that classic lone wolf bounty hunter energy, navigating strange alien landscapes and intricately designed spacecraft interiors. Naughty Dog's known for extracting every ounce of power from PlayStation consoles, and this project seems to continue that tradition. The environmental scale, lighting systems, and character fidelity are all clearly showcased here. Considering the studio's proven ability to craft compelling characters and sprawling narratives, this has all the foundations to evolve into something far more expansive than a standalone adventure. We've only glimpsed a fraction of what's coming, but it already signals a bold new chapter for the team. CD Projekt Red's next major installment, The Witcher 4, is currently targeting a 2027 release window. The key difference this time? Ciri takes center stage, which fundamentally changes the entire dynamic in an exciting way. After years following Geralt's journey, putting the spotlight on Ciri creates opportunities for a completely fresh experience within the Witcher universe. She's got Witcher training under her belt, but she also wields those Elder Blood abilities, a combination that could result in combat systems that are far more dynamic and less predictable than what we've seen before. There's also a major technical shift happening. The Witcher 4 is being developed using Unreal Engine 5, marking a departure from CDPR's proprietary Red Engine. While The Witcher 3 was phenomenal, it certainly had its share of technical hiccups. Switching to UE5 brings benefits like cutting-edge ray tracing, enhanced lighting systems, and the ability to create much richer, more populated worlds. CDPR has also mentioned they're aiming for a stable 60 frames per second, even with all the visual bells and whistles cranked up. Early concept art and teasers hint at environments that dwarf even sprawling regions like Skellige. Following the turbulent Cyberpunk 2077 launch, the studio is clearly taking a more measured approach and allowing proper development time. If they pull this off, The Witcher 4 has the potential to be a defining RPG experience for this console generation. Tomb Raider: Legacy of Atlantis is a complete ground-up remake of the 1996 original, built entirely in Unreal Engine 5 and slated for a 2026 release. Crystal Dynamics isn't just applying a fresh coat of paint here, they're reconstructing the whole experience from scratch. And that approach makes total sense because while the original was groundbreaking for its time, even back in '96, it felt clunky and rigid in places. All the iconic locations are making a comeback: Lara's mansion, the caves of Vilcabamba, and yes, those memorable T-Rex moments. But this time around, they're being reimagined with modern lighting techniques, incredibly detailed geometry, and all the visual fidelity that UE5's technology like Nanite enables. Ancient ruins can now actually feel weathered, crumbling, and genuinely massive without performance taking a hit. The smart move here is that they're preserving what made the original special. Platforming and puzzle solving remain at the heart of the experience, just refined, so everything feels responsive and intuitive by today's standards. Lara's character model looks excellent, and the environments finally have the sense of scope that the original was always reaching for but couldn't quite achieve. If you've never played the first Tomb Raider, this is a perfect entry point, and if you did grow up with it, this looks like a respectful, proper reimagining, not just a visual facelift. 007 First Light. We have been waiting a long time for this matchup. 007 First Light is the James Bond origin story from IO Interactive, and it is officially targeting a release on May 27th, 2026. Honestly, there isn't a better studio on the planet to handle this license. IO gave us the Hitman World of Assassination trilogy, which essentially perfected the social stealth genre. Now they are applying that same philosophy to Bond. This isn't just a shooter, it's a spy fantasy. Powered by their proprietary Glacier engine, the game is built around massive, intricate sandboxes. Think high-stakes casinos and heavily guarded compounds, where your brain is your best weapon. The hook here is that we are playing as a young Bond earning his 00 status. That narrative freedom allows IO to strip away the campiness and focus on raw espionage. We're expecting multiple ways to infiltrate, disguise, and execute missions, rewarding players who plan rather than just run in guns blazing. If First Light can marry the cinematic flair of Bond with the mechanical depth of Hitman, this could be the definitive spy game. Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls. This is the crossover fighting game fans have been dreaming about. Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls is coming in 2026, and the headline here is the developer, Arc System Works. If you know fighting games, you know that name. These are the wizards behind Guilty Gear and Dragon Ball FighterZ, and they are bringing that signature 2.5D anime art style to the Marvel universe. Imagine seeing Wolverine or Iron Man rendered with that hand-drawn, cel-shaded look. It is going to be visually explosive. Gameplay-wise, they are shaking things up with the 4 vs 4 format. That is a lot of bodies on screen. It suggests a game built on chaotic tag mechanics, massive assist attacks, and screen-filling supers. ArcSys is brilliant at making games that are easy to pick up and mash buttons in, but incredibly deep if you want to master the systems. Taking the Marvel roster and giving it the high-octane anime fighter treatment is a brilliant move, and it's easily one of the most exciting competitive titles on the horizon. Resident Evil 9, officially titled Resident Evil Requiem, launches February 27, 2026. Leon Kennedy returns, but this time he's not carrying the story solo. He's partnered with a newcomer named Grace, and that dynamic shift already represents a notable departure for the franchise. The RE engine continues to evolve with each installment, and Capcom's leveraging it to craft claustrophobic, tension-filled environments that feel more oppressive than ever before. The lighting is precise and harsh, shadows loom with weight, and character expressions are rendered with enough detail that you can pick up on their terror without any dialogue. And then there is the Titan. Grand Theft Auto 5 is undoubtedly the most anticipated piece of media on the planet, and it is officially landing on November 19th, 2026. Rockstar is taking us back to Vice City, located in the state of Leonida, but this isn't the blocky neon nostalgia trip you remember. It is a terrifyingly realistic simulation. We are looking at a dual protagonist story featuring Lucia and Jason, and the fidelity in their animations and facial expressions is arguably the best we have ever seen in real-time rendering. But the real star here is the world itself, the density of the crowds, the way the weather systems actually impact the environment, the physics of the water. It all coalesces to make this city feel alive, regardless of whether you are there or not. This isn't just an upgrade from GTA 5, it feels like a generational reset. Whether you are in it for the crime drama narrative or just want to cause chaos in the most detailed open world ever built, this is the game that is going to define the entire console generation. Marvel's Wolverine. Insomniac is finally taking the gloves off. After years of dominating the superhero genre with Spider-Man, they are pivoting to something significantly grittier with Marvel's Wolverine, which remains a PS5 exclusive targeting that fall 2026 window. If you're expecting the same friendly neighborhood vibe, think again. Everything we've seen suggests they are fully committing to the violence inherent to Logan's character. This isn't a sanitized version of the X-Men. It looks heavy, visceral, and genuinely dangerous. The visual details are already standing out, specifically the way the adamantium claws catch the light with ray tracing, giving them a cold, metallic weight that looks incredible. The reason excitement is so high really comes down to the studio's pedigree. Insomniac perfected the feeling of agility and speed with Peter and Miles, so seeing them translate that expertise into pure aggression and weight is a massive shift. We're talking about mechanics that highlight his berserker rage and a real-time healing factor that reacts to combat damage on the fly. There's also a lot of buzz around the battle damage system, where cuts, scars, and wear and tear accumulate on his model as you fight. If they can match the polish of their previous titles while nailing this darker tone, Marvel's Wolverine has a serious shot at being the most intense superhero game we've seen in years.